Today, we're going to be building on the sorting that we created last time. We'll first create arrow buttons so that we can easily choose the direction we want the page to be sorted in one click. Then, we'll refactor those into a nice dry component. Let's get the arrow graphics that we're going to use to create the buttons. I got them from ember.js, a site for searching Unicode. Let's put in the Unicode codes as properties. Then we'll display our arrows in our template. We'll start with the down arrow. But oops, it seems to be just showing the Unicode string. So let's use a triple mustache to return unescaped HTML. And now our arrow is showing up. We can repeat this with the up arrow. To get these to work like we expect, we'll need to change our sort by action. Let's move our action from the header to the arrow button. And then let's specify true or false for sort ascending. In our post controller, we can change the action to take the sort ascending parameter, then set the sort ascending property on the controller based on that parameter. It works. Let's go ahead and repeat that for the up arrow. And we have both arrows working now. We've got one column working, so now we're going to replicate it for the rest of the columns. And it's working for all of the columns. This is an improvement on the last iteration, but there are two problems. First, there is a lot of code for each of the 4 iterations, and every time we need to make a new column, we're going to be copying this. Second, there's no visual feedback to tell which sort is in effect. Fortunately, components can solve both of those problems. Let's start by considering what we want our component call to look like. Let's call it sortable header. We see that there are 2 differences between all 4 iterations of the sort arrows. They are the title and the sorting property. Let's pass those in as variables. We'll also pass in sort by as our action, since we'll need to propagate it out of the component. We'll repeat that for all 4 headers. This code is way shorter and more readable, but the component also isn't implemented yet. To create our component, we'll go to the command line and use the generator. Then we'll go to the template and paste in what we had from before. We're going to use our title variable to replace updated, and our sort property variable to replace updated at in the action. If we look at our page, we'll see that there are a couple of problems. First, the arrows don't show up. Second, all the headers are stacked on top of each other. Third, if we click on one of the buttons, it doesn't work, and instead it shows an error that it says the component had no action handler for sort by. We'll tackle those one at a time. First, the arrows aren't showing up because the up arrow and the down arrow properties are on the controller and not the component, and components do not receive any properties from the controller except those that are explicitly passed in. Let's take the arrow code properties, cut them from the controller, and then paste them into the component. Now our arrows show up. Our headers still stack, and that's because you'll see the table headers are wrapped in a div. Components have a tag, and it's a div by default. Let's override that and have a tag name of th, or table header. That means we can remove the table header from the template. And the table headers now show up as we expect. Finally, let's add an action to the component. We'll take in 2 arguments, then just send them up the chain to the action in the controller. Notice that in the component we use send action, whereas in controllers and routes we use send. And it's back to working like we would expect. In this episode, we added a feature, then we noted its verbosity, then abstracted it away into a component that reads much nicer. In the next episode, we'll take advantage of our component architecture and use it to add a visual indicator of which sorting method is selected. I'll see you then.